Today I'm in a small town in Alaska that's a bastion of Tlingit and Haida culture, as well as calling itself the Salmon Capital of the world.
Welcome to Ketchikan.
Deep in southeast Alaska, Ketchikan is either the first or the last city, depending on which way you're travelling. It's easy to fall in love with this vibrant, colourful and friendly community, but that has not always been the case. Exactly 100 years ago, Senator Forrest J. Hunt said this: "Ketchikan, Alaska is a terrible town. It is vice-ridden and corrupt. One might even gather that it is about the worst place in the world." He really didn't like it. Cheers. The historic Creek district is now Ketchikan's main tourist draw, but these old timber buildings could so easily have been lost. Here's Stephen Reeve of Historic Ketchikan to explain more.
Well, this is an artist's rendition from a photograph of around 1910 on Creek Street, and it was a very active place then, but only remaining are this building here, the Preacher's House 28, and Dolly's house right across the creek. New growth came in. A lot of buildings were lost to flood and fire. They didn't build them very well, but new buildings were done then in the years that followed. So it was really booming in the 1920s, 1930s. And when prostitution was shut down in 1955, everything just kind of stopped. And for years, it just was nothing. It was almost torn down. And then finally, we created a historic district here in 1976, which is now on the National Register of Historic.
And where we're standing now, in the inn, where is that in relation to?
It is right here. Again, this building was built in 1927. It was done by very senior people in the community, helped young kids. They had very high standards of behavior and whatnot. But then after they died, it also became a bordello. And then in 1955, it ended its life. It became a boarding house and finally went into disrepair itself. And we watched it deteriorate. And finally in 2014, we decided it was time to restore this. So it had way more rooms. There was 20 rooms upstairs with a bathroom down the hall. And now it's 10 rooms with bathrooms in each one of the rooms. But we really tried to maintain the historic character of it. That's the oldest building on Kirk Street, 1902. It has an interesting history, first for many years as a house of prostitution. Then a preacher came in who wanted to change Creek Street and get everyone up to his moral standards. And he lasted for 8 or 10 years and didn't succeed. And he finally left. We call it the Preacher's House, and it's part of the hotel. It was falling over, and that was the first building I ever dealt with, trying to restore an old historic building, and learned a lot from it. But anyway, it came back, and it's in fine shape, still has a story to tell, so I'm happy about that. So the green village is Dolly's house, the most famous gal who ever worked on the creek. And I actually knew her in her later years. She lived there up until maybe 1975 or 78. That's a 1907 building. These were women who were very interesting in our community, very adventurous women who in the conditions around the U.S. at that time, they couldn't vote, they didn't have any rights to their home, even if they were married. They could be terminated, kicked out by their husbands and not have any recourse. And these folks came up here with the gold rush thinking they might work in the gold rush. They ended up doing their business here on the creek. But they did all kinds of things in the community. I mean, they helped all kinds of people here and were very respected. It was interesting. And they, until 1955, were a very active part of the community, doing a lot of good things.
By the 1930s, Ketchikan was the largest city in Alaska, and J.R. Heckman had created the Salmon Capital of the world. However, there is a postscript. You see, Heckman's fishing traps were so successful that they would have decimated the salmon stocks, so in 1959 they were banned. Now, it rains a lot where I live in Scotland, but not as much as it does here in Ketchikan. In fact, Ketchikan generally beats anywhere in the world when it comes to rain. 12.5 feet on average every year. But the good folk of Ketchikan don't waste all this rain. Oh no, they use it for clean energy. Yes, hydropower is Ketchikan's primary source of power generation. That precipitation is not wasted. Now, I don't remember much from my brief visit to Ketchikan 9 years ago, but I do remember that statue behind me, the iconic statue of the town, The Rock by Dave Rubin. My recommendation in Ketchikan is to go with the flow and seek out independent businesses. Here are a few that I enjoyed. The wonderfully creative Woodlands Local Apparel and Goods Store. The historic and stylish New York Cafe. The Pioneer Cafe for retro dining. The brilliantly named Catch Me If You Can Cafe. The super friendly Alaska Cafe. And the Star Gallery on Creek Street.
This building was built in 1903. Well, the original part of it is 1903. Some years, maybe 8 or 9 years later, the dance hall was added. This was the only registered brothel in the territory of Alaska. Rooms upstairs, dance hall here. Blind Ernie was the attraction, dancing every night of the week. This is the original maple dance floor. Walk around here, I'll show you one feature we were able to retain, and that star has always been there, and that's why the building is called Star House. And we were able to, when we renovated the building, restore the old maple floor, so we're pleased that we were able to keep that.
So these shirts right here are made by Ray Troll. He is a famous Alaskan artist, lived here in Ketchikan for over 30 years, still lives here part-time, now is spending half of his other time in Kansas with his lovely wife.
So which of these t-shirts is your best seller amongst the thousands of tourists that come to Ketchikan?
I would say the best seller amongst everyone is his Sponti dye design, because this was the shirt that kind of really got him notoriety. And he also got it made on a little pin from a friend in Juneau, but this is the one that he's, I think, the most well known for because of the sockeye Jolly Roger design, and then a little bit, of vulgarity on there. For the art that I'm currently working on, it's a mixture of beading based off of some more traditional design. And so like with this little flower here, in our culture, which is the Tlingit culture, it's one of the many native cultures in Alaska, we do lots of like flowers, we'll do animals that represent our crests, what our clan are. So like my clan is Tehuri, we are the brown bear. And so you would see like a form line design, beaded or button blanket that I would be wearing for special occasions. And where I originally learned beading was from a few of my aunties, some of which I still bead with. And so they were the ones that really inspired me to do it. And then also basing my artwork off of just natural stuff around here. So the flower that I beaded is a forget-me-not, probably the most well-known flower in Alaska. And the fur is from a mink pelt, which was harvested by my friend's grandpa, who has been trapping for, I don't know, he's old now, so for most of his life. But really what I try to represent is the connection that we have to nature here, respecting the wildlife and just general life around us, and, you know, kind of viewing them, at least for me, trying to view them as our equals and therefore need to be respected, and to also help keep that balance.
If it's raining, then find a good bookshop. Happily, Ketchikan has one of the best in Alaska.
So Parnassus Books and Gifts in Ketchikan is 40 years old this year. I'm the third owner, and we were founded by Lillian Ferentz in 1985. And she came here to work with her husband in the aviation industry, and this was her dream, to have a literary salon for Ketchikan. It has evolved into an Alaska-themed bookstore over the years.
I asked Charlotte what it's like to live in a small maritime town that for 6 months of the year is close-knit and quiet, but for the other 6 months receives 1.5 million cruise passengers.
It is very schizophrenic in some ways. We relish our quiet time in the winter, and we do a lot of arts activities and theater and ballet and musical concerts, and then in the summer it's the pedal to the metal. You work and work and work, and as I tell my staff, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Your primary job in the summer, besides helping visitors, is to get your rest, to eat right, and fit in some exercise. Like, there's really no time for fun in the summer, which that is probably the hardest part, is you're in this beautiful natural area, and if you can even limp to the beach or get out on a boat, you've got to be back at work the next day. It's just very hard to get away from helping visitors if you are a small business, and so you really have to pace yourself.
The first thing you'll notice about Ketchikan is probably the rain. But the second thing is the fact that everywhere you look there are magnificent carved totems. Here's Lisa to explain their significance.
Ketchikan has the largest population of the totems here. And the totems are to tell the story of our family, our culture. There's memorial poles, there's celebration poles, there's potlatch poles. And they're to tell stories. A lot of people thought that our totems, we worship them, but we don't worship them. They will stand at our village in a totem park, and each of them have their own story. We have carvers that maybe want to tell a story about their loved one or their family, who they are, where they came from, and maybe where we're going. The Saxman Native Village, it was founded in 1894 by Samuel Saxman. He was a Presbyterian teacher, and he had with him a father and a son that found this here new location, which is known as Saxman Native Village today. The villagers that are there today actually came further south of Reveille-Gigedo Island.
Stunning. There's no other word for it. Absolutely stunning.
When the families settled into the new area that's known as Saxman today, some of the villagers went back to their original village and brought some of their totems back to the village, so that way the artists, the carvers, can be able to recreate those and be able to start a new totem park. I'm part of the Tlingit-Haida Culture. This is my family. Our family goes back about 10,000 years. And years ago, our family, we had fish camps. Well, before Creek Street was ever established, our families had fish camps, and that's what Ketchikan Creek was. I got more involved with the culture because my children live in the state of Washington, and I wanted to be able to bring the culture to them. I wanted them to learn how to make drums. I wanted them to learn how to bead. I want them to learn how to harvest. be able to eat off the land. The song I'm going to sing in Tlingit is the entrance song, and we sing those at events. I hope you like it. Gunishish Hauche Kaudeyayi. Thank you.
Most visitors to Ketchikan only get a few hours to spend in this vibrant little town, which of course is nowhere near enough. If you can, try to give yourself a few nights to really soak up the atmosphere and explore. And if you want to enjoy some quiet time, then don't forget you can come out of season. Now, you don't have to arrive by cruise ship. I arrived on the Alaska Marine Highway ferry and left from the airport, which is unique in that you need to catch a special ferry. I'll tell you all about that in a separate film on the channel called Remote Airports of Alaska. Now, I can't guarantee that you'll have sunshine. One thing I can guarantee is that come rain or shine or rain, you will not regret a visit to Ketchikan.
We look forward to seeing you in Ketchikan.